It's bracketology time here in LC SportsNet's Beyond the Scoreboard. We go well beyond the scoreboard today as we try to look ahead to the 2026 boys and girls basketball playoffs. And we try to do here what is a practically impossible job to get correct, because no matter what, there's going to be teams that are going to complain about where they're seated, who's in front of them, who's behind them, what rematch may or may not end up happening. We'll certainly have a debate podcast when all is said and done after the brackets are unveiled. But what's the fun if we don't do a little bracketology ahead of time and try to predict what the committee will make for the Wpial championships? Again, the brackets will come out on Monday. About 2 o'clock is when we expect them to be unveiled. We'll have links posted for when the unveiling ends up happening, and of course we'll announce those games, the brackets when they are unveiled. We'll get all that and the analysis. Our friends at Trib Live will be doing the unveiling show and analysis. We'll have our own podcast to go through the playoffs as well afterwards and kind of dissect where we think things end up going for all of that. So stay tuned for that on Monday. The game's expected to begin with the play-in games on Thursday of next week. Let's start on the girls' side of things, and we're going to go 6A down to 1A, taking a look at all 12 tournaments that are upcoming. Mainly, I want to start with 6A girls because I think this is the one that could be the most creative out of everything that the committee does, because I think On Play has shown, to me at least, that the edge needs to go to Section 2. And reason being is that third-place team, Upper St. Clair. Now, again, on paper, if you're just looking at that, you'd say, well, why? Upper St. Clair's a 500 team. Why does that matter? Well, Upper St. Clair beat both of the top two teams from Section 1. They beat both Pine Richland and Seneca Valley. So just by that logic, to me, I think advantage goes to Section 2, and you have the outright champion in Cannon McMillan. So if you go by just true seeding, I think Cannon McMillan's the 1, probably Norwin 2, Pine and Seneca Valley would be the 3 and 4. I have them in that order. I could see going the other way around too, but I think Pine Richland has done enough to show that they were up above the Raiders in the end, even though they are co-section champions. The issue that comes up with it, though, is what do you do with the tie for 4th place between Hempfield and Mount Lebanon there in Section 2? Traditionally, the committee likes to, if you have a play-in game potential, to have those teams face off a third time to see who advances into the tournament. If you do that, the winner's going to face the 1 seed, which is Cannon McMillan, and that's a section rematch. Now, I know these are quarterfinal games, so yes, section rematches could potentially happen, but I'd like to avoid that. So I personally think instead of this seeding where you have Cannon McMillan 1, Norwin 2, Pine and Seneca Valley 3 and 4, because you're going to get a section rematch somewhere in there, I'd rather go with some creative seeding. Pine Richland as the 1 seed. That way the Hempfield Mount Lebanon game can happen and the winner will advance, and then you can basically go Section 1 against Section 2 in all of the other opening round matchups. That's my personal preference, is this one here. And you can see all the color coding kind of showing the sections, so you can see where those sections all kind of line up. I know that Don Rebel doing his bracketology with Trib Live, I don't hate it. He has North Hills, who's the only sub 500 team, or the way sub 500 team out of Section 1, versus Mount Lebanon, playing them as the 8-9 game, and keeping North Hills out of, or keeping Hempfield out of that opening round play-in game. I can see that argument as well. Just to me, I don't know. I want anything I can to avoid the first round matchups. I think this is the best way to do it. You have Hempfield Mount Lebanon playing their rubber match and then advancing to face someone out of section from Class 6A's tournament. So we'll see how that one goes. All we know is it's going to be a long layoff for the 6A girls before they get into postseason play. Be much quicker for the full 16-team field for Class 5A. I thought the top 3 seeds were going to be pretty easy to figure out here for Class 5A with, South Fayette, Thomas Jefferson especially, and then Plum as the 3 outright champions, and then Indiana and Penn Trafford as the co-champs from Section 2. Kind of had that, penciled in. But as I'm looking in this, head-to-head scenarios, man, actually makes it a little bit more fun to look at, these co-champions here from Section 2, because I actually split them up, and here's why. Indiana and Penn Trafford are the co-champions. So Indiana beats Penn Trafford late in the year. That's typically what the committee looks if all else is equal. I think you can even go more than that, because Penn Trafford, their only losses on the year, Indiana's only losses were to Penn Trafford, Berlin Brothers Valley, and a team from Maryland. Look at some of the other wins. They beat Plum on opening night. Well, that, in my mind, means maybe I should get them ahead of the Section 1 champions in the Plum Mustangs. Similarly, though, Penn Trafford lost to Plum, and they lost to Baldwin. So, from there, I got Indiana as the 3, then I put Plum as the 4. I think you can then say, well, it makes sense that you can move Penn Trafford all the way down to 6 behind Baldwin. So, that's where that all ends up kind of playing out as a result. So that's where I have my top 6 kind of playing out. Also, just for another fun common opponent, you actually have Penn Trafford lost to Berlin Brothers Valley, much like their co-champions Indiana beat Berlin Brothers Valley. So you don't typically see co-champs get split up quite like this in the brackets, but I think it just kind of plays out. So South Fayette against Peters, Fox Chapel against Trinity, Plum against Chartiers Valley, and Baldwin against Franklin Regional as the top half of the bracket. Then TJ against Kiski, West Allegheny Latrobe, Indiana Mars, and Penn Trafford against Penn Hills for the Penn game in the 6-11 game, as it may be. Class 4A in the girls as we work our way down the brackets. This was really interesting to me because I actually had Beaver potentially as a top 3 or 4 seed pretty easily until their loss in the last week of the year to Hampton. So that bumps Beaver down to me. I still have them above Hampton as Beaver the 5, Hampton the 6. I could see those being flip-flopped very easily. But it's pretty straightforward. Blackhawk, they've been nigh untouchable this year. They're the 1 seed. Oakland Catholic is a 2 seed. I have Bell Vernon 3 and North Catholic 4. Bell Vernon as the section champion. I'll give them the nod to have that opportunity to play in the as the 3 seed rather than being on the top seed spot. Hopewell was able to make it into the tournament in the final week of the regular season, so you do have now 14 teams, which makes that 3-4 distinction not as important. If Hopewell didn't make it in at the end and you had just the 3 first-round byes, it almost, I don't want to say it's required to, but it almost had to go to the 3 section champions. So it's a little more cumbersome now, but I think it's pretty clear Blackhawk and Oakland Catholic as the top 2 of those 3 section champions. They get the first round byes, and this one's pretty straightforward down the stretch when it comes to it. So Berlin South Park is what I have, the winner facing Blackhawk, North Catholic taking on Ringgold, and Beaver taking on Freeport. The bottom half, Oakland Catholic as the 2 taking on the winner of Elizabeth Ford and Lincoln Park, and then the 3 seed Bell Vernon taking on Hopewell, winner taking on either Hampton or Mount Pleasant. Class 3A for the girls' bracketology here. You could have made a great argument for Beaver Falls as the number 1 seed, and I think you still can bring a pretty good argument to it. The Beaver Falls Tigers gets their 1 and only loss in overtime on Saturday against Neshannock, the number 1 seed that's going to be coming out of the 2A division. So that being the only loss of the year for Beaver Falls, definitely can make a case for number 1, but Shady Side, their 2 losses against 2 pretty top-notch programs in Pine Richland and Oakland Catholic, who again, we have Pine Richland being a top 3 seed in Class 6A, Oakland Catholic a top 2 seed in Class 4A. So defending champion Shady Side, they're definitely still the 1 seed, and they will get the only first-round bye as a result in Class 3A. Beaver Falls as the 2 seed, pretty straightforward there. And Greensburg Central Catholic as your next section champion, or not as a section champion, excuse me, as the runner-up behind Shady Side. I have as the number 3 seed in there. Again, tough non-section schedule overall, and looking at Section 3, I think Section 3 is a little bit, weaker top to bottom maybe, is why I have Seton LaSalle going in as the 4. Also, though, I mean, it's an unwritten rule in some people's minds, me for sure. As I'm making the brackets, I like to see, I don't specifically make it all the time, but I like when the brackets work out that if a section is that much better than any other section, the top 2 teams in that section deserve a chance to meet in the finals. So if I'm nip and tuck even between a Greensburg Central Catholic and a Seton LaSalle, Greensburg Central Catholic's got to be opposite of Shadyside. So I put Greensburg as a 3 and Seton as a 4, kind of as a, it is what it is scenario. Similarly, why I would have Quaker Valley as a 5 seed and not as a 3 seed, for example, so that if those two are the best, or put Olshan there as well, that you have a chance those teams will meet in the finals, not just in the semifinals. So I do give a lot of love, though, to that Beaver Falls section, because those top 3 teams, I think, have shown in non-section play that they've been the most consistently strong in the classification. Yeah, definitely a top-heavy section. Section 1 is, but those are 3 really, really strong teams. But then I give love to Riverside as a result as well, because they end up as the 4th place team out of that section. I end up giving them a 8 seed and a home game here over a couple other of the teams that finished 3rd in their respective sections. So love for Section 1 due to the competition that they face with each other all year, but also some pretty good non-section schedules for all of them, Riverside especially giving them the bump. Also just a note, Keystone Oaks swept McGuffey on the year, so keep that in mind in terms of how you end up ordering them. So I have Riverside taking on Keystone Oaks in that 8-9 game to start, winner taking on Shadyside Academy, Seton LaSalle against Stowe Rocks, and Quaker Valley against Deer Lakes. And in the bottom half, Beaver Falls against South Allegheny, Waynesburg against Avonworth in the 7-10 game. Mohawk, they were tied for 5th place. Warriors will be taking on, in my mind, Greensburg Central Catholic in the 3 versus 14 game, and Olsh against Keystone Oaks to wrap out that 3A tournament. Again, all this bracketology will find the official rulings for what the committee comes up with on Monday. 2A girls, this was honestly, out of all 12 brackets, the most fun to create, which is kind of crazy because it is just a straight 16-team field. But again, it just, when you see how things kind of piece together, it was a fun one to come with. Neshannock wins against 5A opponents, 6A opponents, the 3A number 2 seed. They're definitely the number 1 overall. In the end, you do have the 4 section champions in this one, 1 through 4. So I think that was pretty easy at that point, and also pretty easy to order those 4 teams, because Winchester Thurston beat Chartiers Houston pretty well. I'd say beat them by 19. I'd say they beat Fort Cherry by 17 as well. And Chartiers Houston has a 10-point win over Fort Cherry as well. So ranking 1, 2, 3, 4 was pretty straightforward. 5 through 12, though, was a lot of fun to put together, and here's why. First off, Rochester and Aliquippa are the 5 and 6. Both of them with their non-section schedules is why they end up getting the nod over just about everybody else in terms of the seedings here. One of the ones that was most interesting, Burgettstown and Southside with tied for second there in that section. How do you go and kind of figure them out? Well, here's what ends up happening. Southside was mercy ruled by Aliquippa. They were also mercy ruled by Bentworth. So I can't justify them being anywhere up near the top, especially not having a home game. Burgettstown, they lost to Aliquippa, so that immediately puts them behind the Quips without any question. I end up having Burgettstown 7, but then Southside, I have them dropping way down just based off of, making sure you don't get the first round rematches and everything. The Southside schedule just really didn't impress me, and that's why I have them dropping. Maybe that's a little too much down all the way to 14, but true seed maybe a 12 or 13, just the way you need to have the matchups so you don't have first round rematches. They drop all the way down to a 14 in my book, so call it fair or not, I guess, but that's where that issue comes in with the Southside Beavers, or Southside Beaver Rams, I should say, dropping all the way down. The other interesting question was Section 4 with a three-way tie for second place between Jeanette, Apollo Ridge, and Riverview. How can you justify, one of those teams getting a home game when the other one or the other two do not, I guess? So as a result, I have all three of those teams dropping down to 9 or below, which is another reason why, just in my putting them together, I felt like in numbers-wise, Jeanette, Apollo Ridge, and Riverview had to be all seated, around the same number. I have them as 10, 11, 12. So Southside was my true 13, but that would be a game against Fort Cherry, so they drop as a result down to number 14. Probably could have flipped it the other way around, and I may still do that in my final iteration, but as of now, Neshannock the 1 seed against Brentwood, Cal and Laurel in the 8-9 game, Fort Cherry hosting Best Center, and Rochester hosting Apollo Ridge in the brackets. And then in the 2-15, it's Winchester Thurston against Bentworth, Burgettstown hosting Jeanette, 3 seed Chartiers Houston against Southside, and Aliquippa against Riverview in the 2A girls bracket. Finally, Class 1A for the girls, Aquinas has to be the 1 seed for sure. Undefeated in the section. They defeat the defending champions twice on the year. Only 2 losses total on the year for Aquinas. They're definitely the 1 seed. A little interesting. It's a fun exercise now because Geibel, defeated by Sarah Catholic at the end of the year. They're co-champions. How do you seed them? Geibel only has 1 loss, but Sarah won the later game in the year. How do you make the distinction? I still think Geibel has the better overall resume from this year, so I put them at the 2. You could make the argument that they're 2 and Sarah's 3, or vice versa. I, again, think that they deserve to be split up. If Geibel and Sarah are the 2 best teams, they'll meet in the finals. If Aquinas and Union are the 2 best teams, they should have a chance to meet a third time in the finals, not the semifinals. So, as a result, I have Aquinas 1, Geibel 2, Union 3 as the teams with the byes. Technically, Sarah Catholic has a bye as well in the first round. I have them playing, though, they have to play West Green immediately. There's really no way around getting the quarterfinal rematch there between Sarah Catholic and the Pioneers of West Green. Again, just because of the way the brackets end up playing out with the extra team coming from Section 2 with the tie between Clareton and Monessen. So I have Aquinas taking on either Eden or Bishop Canevin, Sarah Catholic and West Green playing each other in the quarterfinals. Geibel awaits the winner of Sewickley and Monessen. Union awaiting the winner of St. Joseph and Clareton. That's where we stand at the moment. Again, wouldn't surprise me if I end up changing my mind again by the time the this even gets released on Sunday evening. As you get ready for your Super Bowl festivities, we take a look at Super Monday coming up with the brackets being unveiled around 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Quick break, we'll be back, and we'll look at the boys' side of things, some bracketology for the Wpial basketball tournaments here at LC SportsNet, powered by LCAP.
Thank you for calling Axe. Where can we take you today?
To work, to the store, to Grandma's house. Axe can get you there, but it's much more than a ride. It's a joyride.
I'm helping people. I'm getting them out of their house. I'm taking them to their doctors, to the grocery store.
They say I'm entertaining. Okay, we laugh, we joke, we sing, we tell stories.
They're like family to us.
Even if it's the same day, to schedule your joyride, call Axe today.
Cold winds blowing, temperatures dropping, and snow is beginning to fall. And then your furnace goes out. LCAP's LIHEAP Crisis Program is here to help. If your furnace is blowing cold air, not turning on, or not reaching the desired temperature, help is right around the corner, whether it needs fixed or replaced. For information, call the Department of Healthy Homes at 724-656-0090. LCAP's Healthy Home programs are the key to safer living.
Contractors, the Department of Healthy Homes needs you. From small to large residential projects, you can help families live safer and healthier with the quality work you do. It's rewarding in more ways than one. Call LCAP's Department of Healthy Homes today.
Reminder, playoff games scheduled to begin on Thursday of next week. With that in mind, we need your help to get those games on the air. Rights fees exist for all the WPIL games. We are able to pay rights fees to do audio broadcasts for all the games, guaranteed. We should be able to do video. The question, though, is whether it's free video for everybody to watch or whether it has to be on the NFHS network. There's a lot of hula hoops that have to go be jumped through to make that happen. We need your help to help make that happen as well in terms of being able to get these games covered on the air. So if you want to help us get your team broadcast, send me a message, send our crew a message. The easiest way is to email us at lcsportsnet@lccap.org. You can send us a message on social media as well and figure out how we can get your team on the air and also advertise your business a little bit coming up through these games as well. Also, a quick reminder, we will have the 7th and 8th grade boys basketball championships coming up this week on Thursday. And the following week, we will have the 5th and 6th grade championships, the girls basketball championships for sure, waiting on a date for the boys 5th and 6th grade championships. Maybe get a chance to get those covered as well. So if you want to be a part of those, again, send us an email, send us a message on social media. We want to cover these young athletes. It's been a lot of fun covering some of the kids in junior high that we'll end up later seeing making a big impact on the varsity game as well. So let's turn it over now to the boys side of things, and again we'll start in Class 6A and work our way down. And I toyed back and forth with this for a while. The long and short of it is Upper St. Clair and Newcastle basically the exact same resume. The one difference, do you give the 1 seed to the section champion that was a sole section champion but maybe in a slightly easier overall section? Or do you give it to the team that has 1 loss on the year as well, but are the defending champions? It was going back and forth a lot with it. In the end, it doesn't really matter all that much, the 1 versus the 2, the way this all kind of plays out. Both are getting first-round buys and await the winner of first-round games. I have Upper St. Clair as the 1, Newcastle as the 2, Central Catholic as the 3. Again, I think it makes most sense, though, especially when you only have 2 sections, to have kind of crossover games as much as possible so that you have, if one section is truly better than the other, they have a chance to show it. And that's where I think the way this plays out is the right way. The team I'm really going to keep my eye on, though, is this Pine Richland team, because they're probably going to get a 7, 8, or 9 seed. They lost their last 2 games of the regular season. Had they won even one of those, they're probably a 4 seed or a 5 seed. Instead, they drop all the way down in my book to an 8. So I have Pine Richland taking on Norwin, with the winner taking on top seed Upper St. Clair. Seneca Valley finishes strong. They get the 4. They'll take on Hempfield as a 5 in my book. Newcastle awaiting the winner of Mount Lebo and Fox Chapel. And Central Catholic taking on either North Hills or Imani Christian in that 6A tournament. I gave Seneca Valley the nod over North Hills in terms of getting that 4th seed. Even though they split, they both won 4 of their last 5. I give those Seneca Valley again the edge because they won later in the season. Class 5A, a couple of play-in games here, and let's start with the play-in games because I have Laurel Highlands, McKeesport, and Latrobe all playing in one of those play-in games and not playing against each other. Those are the teams that ended up with a tie, a 3-way tie for 4th place in Section 1. Can I really give one team not getting the first, or not having to play a play-in game? You might be able to say that because Laurel Highlands has a better record, where McKeesport and Latrobe are both sub 500. Nah, they all split against each other. If one's playing a play-in game, I think they all are. Similarly to Montour and Mars, they both either are both playing a play-in game or both are not, because they tied for the 4th and final spot out of Section 4. So that's why I have Laurel Highlands against Montour, McKeesport against Mars, and then I have Ringgold against Latrobe in the 3 play-in games. So that's how that one played out. The real question, though, is, too, how good overall really is Section 4? Because even though I have Mars and Montour right now as a play-in game, I had them at one point where they were the 2 teams that were not having to play a play-in game. They were like the 12 and 13 seed, because that top of that section has been so strong all year. In fact, Montour took Char Valley and Lincoln Park down to the wire in a couple of their games. Mars has been real close in a lot of their games. Those 2 having to play a play-in game, you could argue is not the right move. I do have Char Valley, Lincoln Park, and Moon as the 1, 2, 3 overall in the entire classification, and that's over a Thomas Jefferson team that was unbeaten in section play and 20-2 overall. Call it fair, call it not. The overall resumes is, to me, again, what speaks the most volumes, that what those three teams have done all year long in and out of section. And the other one that just kind of, raised an eyebrow, looking at the Thomas Jefferson resume, they have a loss to a third-place team in the section in Penn Trafford. I think that has to knock them down below those top three there from Section 4. Moon only has 3 losses on the entire year, and they came to those teams in the section, Char Valley and Lincoln Park. So, yeah, I think you got to put Moon as the 3 seed up above Thomas Jefferson. Moon also has wins against teams like Alderdice, Central Catholic. How about Penn Hills even as a big win? Lincoln Park, looking at their losses on the year, 2 of them are from out-of-state teams, 2 to Char Valley, and 1 to Newcastle. I mean, to me, enough said. They are easily in that top 2 discussion. So that's where the fun of section or of Class 5A came, was at the top. After that, it kind of all settled in place. But again, I could make the argument that you got to put Mars and Montour up higher, potentially as a 11, 12, or 13 seed. But right now, I have Char Valley taking on either Laurel Highlands or Montour. And my goodness, if you end up getting a Char Valley Montour first round game, if I'm the Colts, I'm not pleased about that, to say the very least. In the 8-9 game, Shaler Franklin Regional, I have TJ taking on Hampton in the 4-13 game, and Penn Hills against South Fayette in the 5-12. Lincoln Park awaiting the winner of Pigtail game, McKeesport and Mars. Peters Township taking on Penn Trafford in the PT game there, apparently. Moon waiting Ringgold or Latrobe, and Gateway to take on Indiana. In Class 4A, again, how do you rank these top 3? North Catholic and Knock split the section title. North Catholic winning the game later in the year. All else pretty even between those two teams. So North Catholic's got to be ahead of Knock. Are they 1-2? Are they 2-3? Are they 1-3? 2-4? How do they play out? Where does Quaker Valley, with 3 losses on the year, where do they play in to the equation? Where does Derry, who, hats off to them, winning their first section title in nearly 70 years? Where do they fall in? I think for sure they're the lowest out of those 4 teams named. I put North Catholic 1 and Knock 2. And then I put Quaker Valley at 3 and Derry at 4. I think North Catholic over Knock is very straightforward. If you want to say Quaker Valley the 2 and Knock the 3, I got no problem with that whatsoever. Knock. So, hang on. Let me start with North Catholic. They beat them late in the year. Beat the Knock Knights, that is. Their other 3 losses are all to out-of-state competition. That's why I think North Catholic has to be the 1. Quaker Valley losses are to Shaler and then the 2 out-of-state teams. So right now I have Knock at 2 and Quaker Valley at 3, and I'm immediately thinking I want to change that here right on the spot and put Quaker Valley as the 3 and Knock as the 2. Again, I have no problem in either way with that. And again, Derry, big hats off to them, but they are for sure behind after that as the 4. The only other really part that you had to kind of look at, Elizabeth Forward swept Bell Vernon. They were tied for second place in that Section 3. Because of that sweep is why EF goes ahead of the Leopards. But North Catholic taking on either Hopewell or Burrell as the top seed. Derry taking on Highlands in the 4-13 game. Central Valley against East Allegheny in the 5-12. Knock, the 2 seed, taking on Bell Vernon or Avonworth. I have Quaker Valley against Greensburg-Salem, and Elizabeth Forward against Deer Lakes. Now, here's the other reason why, as I'm saying this, I think I may make the change. There's only 2 first-round buys here. So do you give both first-round buys to the co-champions of Knock and North Catholic? I mean, again, maybe you have to justify that if North Catholic gets the bye, Knock also should get the bye. I could also then say the other way around. How do you not give the first-round bye to an outright, undefeated conference champion in Quaker Valley? I get that rationale as well. I'm going to stick with this, with North Catholic 1 and Knock as 2. And you know what? Having an opening round game in the first round might not be a bad thing for any of those teams either. So keep that in mind when your brackets come out. And if you think your team should have gotten a bye and didn't, that could end up being a thing to think about. Getting a game under your belt is not always the worst thing in the world. Class 3A, we're going to give a lot of love here to Section 1, the top two of Mohawk and Aliquippa. Mohawk beating Aliquippa twice, and especially on the road by 20+, certainly convincing that they are worthy as being the number 1 seed here in the Class 3A tournament. The question is where you rank beyond that, because a lot of parity seeming to go through down the stretch for the other teams. Looking, for example, at the Section 3 champion in South Park, because they beat a team like Keystone Oaks, a runner-up in Section 2 that features the Bishop Canevin team, but there's no really other non-section wins that stick out for South Park. So where do I put them in the grand scheme of things? Yeah, they beat Keystone Oaks. What about Bishop Canevin? Yeah, they got a 13-8 record, but a lot of tough losses to good teams, too, like an Upper St. Clair, Newcastle, Butler, Jeanette, Obama, North Catholic, Avonworth. A lot of good losses, but no real good wins. Oh, and Canevin lost to Keystone Oaks at the end of the year. So I don't think I can put Canevin at the 2. Aliquippa, their losses are to pretty good teams as well. Char Valley, Morgantown out of state, Swickley Academy, Mohawk twice. They got a couple good wins too, like South Fayette and Central Valley, a good Farrell team from D10. So I got Aliquippa in there as the 2 seed, Canevin as the 3, and South Park as the 4 at the moment. It's difficult to see how those should all fit in, but I went Canevin 3, South Park 4, and then after that, Keystone Oaks actually in the 5 seed, Seton LaSalle, the runner-ups from Section 3, as the 6 seed. Notice I've still not named Southmoreland. Southmoreland, who is undefeated out of Section 4. I have them falling all the way to the 7 seed, and a couple of key points with that. They lost pretty badly. Yeah, it was the opening game of the year, but they lost pretty badly to Keystone Oaks in that opener. Remember, I mentioned that there was a Aliquippa win over Central Valley. Southmoreland also played that Central Valley team and got mercy ruled by them. They did play against South Park and beat South Park, so that's one that you have to keep in mind too. Is you got to weigh the entire thing. If things are equal and you can go head to head, that's great. But at the same time, a win against South Park, yeah, that's impressive. You also have a couple of really head-scratching losses on there. So, again, I keep looking back at this, and maybe I make adjustments down the stretch that maybe you have to find a way to get Southmoreland ahead of South Park. And that would maneuver a whole bunch of things around here. For now, though, I have South Park as the 4, and then, again, 5 is Keystone Oaks, 6 is Seton LaSalle, and then Southmoreland and Ligonier Valley from that section. Again, it was a weaker section overall to begin with. I have them as the 7 and 8 seed, respectively. Just for some of the other local teams, right now I have Elwood City as the 10 seed taking on Southmoreland, and I have Riverside, the 11 seed, taking on Seton LaSalle in the 3A tournament. And as you can tell looking at the graphics, in the meantime, I have changed my mind, and I have made a couple adjustments after going a little bit of a deeper dive. I've moved Southmoreland up to that number 4 spot because they were a victor over South Park. So bumping South Park to the 5, Keystone Oaks to the 6, and Seton LaSalle down to the 7 seed there in the 3A tournament. So immediately already some changes. The biggest tournament of them all is Class 2A, and again, maybe questions about how tough one of these sections is or isn't. First off, no doubt, the 1 and 2 are Swickley and Jeanette. One loss between the two of those teams. Very likely they are the collision course to be meeting at the Pearson Events Center. After that, which co-champions? The ones from Section 4 with Olsh and Neshannock, or the ones from Section 3 with Chartiers Houston and Jefferson Morgan? And it's a fair argument of which ones you're going to go at until you look at that Neshannock win over Clairton. I think that's the one that speaks volumes down the stretch, because that shows that for sure that those champions should be above Clairton, because you could have made an argument maybe that Clairton, with only 3 losses on the year, could be up there in top 4 discussion. So I think because of that, you got to put both Olsh and Neshannock ahead of Clairton. Then it would look at, okay, do you put Clairton even maybe ahead of the Jefferson Morgan and the Chartiers Houstons of the world? Only 1 loss on the year for Jefferson Morgan, I think, is why I give them the edge at the 5. Clairton jumping all the way up to a 5, though, is very possible. In fact, the more I've gone through it, I ended up bumping Clairton all the way up to the 5 seed with JM as the 6 and Chartiers Houston as the 7. And again, cry foul if you want. That's a very tough Jefferson Morgan team. And that whole program in all the sports so far this year, wrestling, football, they've had some pretty impressive beginnings to this calendar year. The big issue for JM and why they keep bumping down on the list as you look more and more at it is that they don't have the great non-section schedule. They have wins, yes, a couple of out-of-state wins against teams from West Virginia, but a couple of their quality wins are against teams like Avella and Bentworth, and they're not by the largest of margins. Best Center was their largest margin of victory, but that's a Best Center team that we have playing in one of the play-in games. So not a lot to go by here for Jefferson Morgan. So if they're going to make a run in this very deep field, again, I think Swickley and Jeanette are the heavyweights to begin with, but I think anybody from 3 through 12 has a legit chance to maybe potentially make a run if they get the right matchup. This is going to be very matchup based. Otherwise, other than those top 2 seeds, I think it's all very matchup based. Our Lady of the Sacred Heart for sure is the 3. They've won about 10 or 11 straight after 2 of their 3 losses coming over the holidays down in Florida. 3 of their 4 losses coming down in Florida. The only other loss coming in the section opener against Neshannock. So Swickley is the 1, Jeanette the 2, Olsh 3, Neshannock 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8 I go right now. Clairton, Jefferson Morgan, Chartiers Houston, and I have Eden and Laurel in the 8-9 game. I think Trib Live had it flip-flopped as Laurel the 8, Eden the 9. I can see either way. I can't really make a good distinction between the 2, except Eden Christian finishing 2nd in the section and Laurel finishing 3rd. Probably give the edge of the home game probably to Eden Christian. That is to say, is Eden's gym big enough to host a playoff game? I didn't even think about that. But nonetheless, if that ends up moving to a neutral site, then so be it. But Eden Laurel, I have Neshannock against Bentworth and Clairton against Fort Cherry. That would be kind of fitting to get the Clairton-Fort Cherry game not on the football field, but set up in the basketball playoffs, as people are hoping to see the Rangers and the Bears go at it back on the gridiron. Jeanette awaiting either Best Center or Brentwood, and Char Hugh against Winchester Thurston, and that's a dangerous Winchester Thurston team, to be honest there, that is probably going to be a double-digit C in this championship. Again, I have Jefferson Morgan, 6 seed, taking on 11 seed Shenango, with Olsh taking on either Springdale or West Green in my brackets. And finally, in Class 1A, as we wrap up our bracketology special here, not a whole lot to talk about. Neighborhood Academy is definitely the 1 seed, and I'm looking at just making sure you get the back and forth between everybody. The issue is, though, again, I think even when you're making sure you get these, what's the word I'm looking for? You're getting not the rematches in the first round. I think you're going to give a lot of love to Section 2 as a result of everything here, because of the fact that, Section champion from Section 1, Nazareth Prep, both Monessen, the second place team, and Sarah Catholic, the tied for second place team, they both beat Naz Prep, and in fact, Sarah mercy ruled them, beating by 35. So I do think 1, 2, and 3 seeds all come from Section 2, which is kind of interesting, because then you will get section champions meeting in the semifinals. I think it kind of plays out the right way when you do it that way. Neighborhood and Nazareth Prep, if Naz is that good, hey, they got a losing record overall. Yeah, they played some tough non-section opponents, no doubt about it. But that also kind of sets you up with a chance to have the Monessen Sarah Catholic rubber match in the semifinal, with a chance to go and play who you expect to be Neighborhood Academy in the finals. So I got Neighborhood Academy against Summit in the first round. Nazareth Prep going against St. Joseph, who got the win late. They'll be the last representative from Section 2. Monessen Aquinas and Sarah Catholic against Avella. Again, all these are subject to change, and they will be officially announced just under 24 hours. Again, we expect around 2 o'clock tomorrow for when the brackets to be unveiled on the Trib Live High School Sports Network. So stay tuned for that. We'll post all the links and everything. And remember, this is just an exercise. I'm not in the room. Who knows what the committee from year to year says that they're going to value the most from one class to another, from one year to another. It's always a crapshoot, and in the end, some of us are going to end up saying that we are full of crap when we're trying to figure out what exactly is to be expected for the bracketology. But that's the fun of it. It's a fun exercise to do. I encourage you to do it as well. There's a lot of head-to-head digging in to try to get everything exactly lined up the way you think works best, and I'm sure that I'll be way off on some and hopefully really close on most. But that's the fun of it. Nothing is, a personal dig at anybody or any team or any conference or anything like that. I'm just trying to go based off the numbers and based off what we've seen with our own eyes and what we've heard with our own ears, and it ends up making a fun little exercise to go through here and organize what these brackets may look like. And again, we'll find out in a little under 24 hours now who will end up being the top seeds in each of the tournaments. So I hope you enjoyed it. I encourage you to do your own exercises as well, and I encourage you to tune in to the bracket unveiling tomorrow and the playoffs beginning on Thursday next week. You'll catch as many games of our county teams going on throughout the postseason at lcsportsnet.com. My goodness, what a year it has been. All 7 boys teams from the county in the Wpial are in the postseason. We're expecting to have at least 2 number 1 seeds between the boys and the girls side of things. I think the final number ended up being 4 county girls teams into the postseason as well. But we expect Neshannock girls, Mohawk boys to be top seeds, Newcastle boys probably as a 2 seed, Neshannock as a top 4 seed on the boys side. Yeah, we're talking at least 4 or 5 home games coming up in opening round action for the county teams as well. Again, we'll get as many as we can covered. Need your help when we can, and we'll get them audio for sure at least, and video when we are able to and when we are permitted to do so by the WPIAL. I'm James Dotson. Thanks for joining in for the bracketology, and stay tuned for the WPIAL playoffs. 1 week left to go in D10. We'll get some D10 playoffs after that as well. But all coming up this week: chaos, fun, excitement. WPIAL playoffs on the Lawrence County Sports.